just when you thought it was safe to go onto iTunes. This is Next Level Guy, the only website that makes self-development as fun as going to the movies. It's time to take the red pill and escape the Matrix.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Next Level Guy Show podcast with your host Ian Dawson-Mackay. Today's guest is SciBabe Yvette d'Entremont. Yvette runs the hilariously educational SciBabe, where you come for the science but stay for the dirty jokes. Yvette is a scientist, public speaker, science blogger, and a former analytical chemist with a background in forensics and toxicology. In this interview, we discuss her story, science, what she'd like to teach men about science, facts versus fake news, modern science versus new age remedies, and so much more. It's a little bit crazy and a wee bit different than my standard interviews, but I thoroughly did enjoy doing it and I hope you'll love it too. But first, a quick word about my affiliate deals and special offers. As you'll know, I've set up some amazing deals with some cracking companies to bring you the best deals, special offers, and other discount codes that I can find. These deals are amazing and there really is something for everyone. You can pick up equipment, home gadgets and books, etc. from Amazon. Some comfy jeans that show off your hard-earned muscle gains from Barbell Apparel. The latest and the coolest gear and gadgets from those great people, Cool Materials. Some demon grooming products from Mankind, who really do have the best range in men's grooming. Some amazingly comfy underwear from MeUndies. And really there's so much more. To see these and more, simply go to www.nextlevelguy.com/affiliates. That's www.nextlevelguy.com/affiliates. But first, before we get to the interview, I would just like to say a Merry Christmas to you all and best wishes for the festive period, no matter what you're doing and who you're with. This is the first year of the podcast, and I'm very happy and proud of where this podcast has grown to. I've had a chance to speak to some of my heroes, find out some great information, and develop and grow as a person, and I hope this has really helped you too. The people I've signed up to interview in the new year are amazing, and it really is blowing my mind to think I'm getting a chance to speak to each of them, and I know you'll love each of them. I thank each and every one of you who listen, regardless if this is your first podcast or if you've been from the start. I love to do this, and I want to say a thank you for coming on this journey to the next level in all aspects of our lives with me. If you have a few minutes and you want to give me a cracking Christmas present, then please go to iTunes and leave a review for this podcast. It'll help bring more attention to the show and attract more guests and help me work out even bigger affiliate deals and so much more. And it'll make me all warm and fuzzy inside. As 2017 closes, I'd just like to say thank you again. You really make this worthwhile, and I'm glad to have you following along. Thank you for listening, and all the best for 2018. And now, enough of this mushy crap. Let's get to the interview with Yvette. I hope you enjoy this one. How's things today?
I just moved from LA to Oakland, and I'm exhausted. And see, we moved in, I'm not sure what the conversion is to Celsius. I think it's, let's see, the last time I was in heat this high, I think it's around 40 degrees centigrade, how hot it was out here over the weekend. I'm not exaggerating. It was 105 in Burbank the day we moved, and the day afterwards it was like 116. And up in Oakland, it was about as hot when we got up here. And I'm like, oh, we're moving north. It's going to be colder. I should keep a sweatshirt available outside of all my packed boxes, because it'll be later in the day. We're moving north. It'll definitely be colder, right? No, it was crazy hot out. Like, we moved in the middle of a heat wave, and the day, like, 'cause we moved from Burbank, and I don't know how far the, news of these things travels. I never know if, like, these are just pieces of news that stay, like, in state. But, like, we moved out of, like, a part of LA that's on fire, like, literally 5,000 acres of mountain and wild, forest land burned right where I lived. Like, less than 2 miles from where I lived got evacuated. So, like, it's been a nutty few days. I'm not unpacked, and I'm a little exhausted. But I'm, like, finally...
it was quite amazing.
Oh, so you saw, like I said, I never know how far news, like, gets out of the local area, and I always assume that no one's seen it. So, like, I forget that news, like, from the U.S. travels outside of the U.S., and news from, like, outside of the U.S. never gets in. Like, we're in our own little bubble here. Like, I get news from outside of here because, like, I have friends from all over, but, like, Americans don't see anything from outside of the U.S. But, like, yeah, the Latuna/Burbank fire, that's been, like, that's right where I lived. And, like, it was, I keep joking, I'm like, I leave, and what happens? Fire and brimstone rains down upon it. So apparently I was the only thing holding the place together. No, not really. I really don't believe that, I promise.
I thought that was my dating life, fire and brimstone. It seems to be all I can attract at the moment with kids.
I would say maybe it's you, but who knows? Like, maybe it's I got nothing. I don't know. Dating is just, it's hell. Like, I finally met a guy that can put up with my shit, and anytime, like, we argue about something, like, and there's that tiny inkling of, maybe I should throw in the towel on this, I think back to how much hell dating is. And I'm like, nope. We're gonna fight through this and get over it, because I'm not going back to dating, never again.
It's worth it, isn't it? It's just kind of going, will I make an effort with this? Will I just give up? And then you think, no, Tinder, no.
It's no. It's like I found somebody who I can put up with, and like there will be no going back. So like there would have to, like, I cannot think of a thing that this man can do, like, that he's currently doing. Like, the little relationship habits that I can put up with now, there is not a single thing of them that would make me dump this man. So it is, like, this is, as I like to say, everyone has a bag of shit. Like, a metaphorical bag of shit. If somebody actually carries a bag of shit around with them, run. But everyone has a metaphorical bag of shit that they have to, like, disguise the smell, and that's kind of life. And that's, like, as long as you can put up with their bag of shit, that's a person that you put up with for life. And that's dating. But, like, if the bag of shit, shall we say, changes too much, that's when you reevaluate. But I've decided this is a person whose bag of shit I can handle. He can put up with my bag of shit, I can put up with his bag of shit. But, like, if the bag of shit...
there's times you look at people and you kind of go, oh, they would be amazing, and then you get to know them and you're like, fuck, I never went there, like.
Yeah, it's like, then, like, once you realize what's deeply in the bag of shit, it's like, oh, that bag of shit, it's not just a turd, it's a heaping pile of rhinoceros poo. Like, there's something going on there that you're like, oh, they're putting on a good face. And, like, sometimes you might be that person with the crazy pile of rhinoceros poo to someone else, and you don't realize it. Like, and that's why I say, like, 99% of the people on the planet, they're not dateable. And it's not, like, or they're not dateable, to you, personally. Like, and it's not that they're bad people, it's that, like, you just don't jive with them. Like, there's something, your shit is just incompatible with them. So, I've decided this is a human whose shit is compatible with mine because he just brought me coffee. He is a wonderful man. He just warned me that the coffee cup is very full. He makes really good coffee. This makes him a good man.
It's coffee and orgasms. That's usually enough to keep a woman happy, I find.
He makes better coffee than I do. That is a sign of a good human. Oh,
there's an art to that, though. It's like an actual experiment, or it's like a potion. It's like some people make awful cups of tea and coffee, and if you can find somebody that makes a good one, it's amazing.
He just told me he fucked this one up. It's a little high on the acidity level, I would say.
The beans are very lightly roasted.
Oh, beans were lightly roasted. And here's the thing. I made, I would say, a shitty cup of coffee before I met Derek. He has trained me into making a better cup of coffee, but he still makes a better one than I do. Right. He knows the coffee. Like, we're both chemists, but, like, his, he is obsessive over the cups of coffee, and he makes a good cup of coffee. Like, I'm the cook in that. He can cook, but I tend to do more of the cooking. But, like, if he wakes up early enough in the morning, I wait for him to make coffee, because he just makes better coffee than I do. Like, no matter what, I've tried. He's explained, like, his coffee making procedure. Like, that's the thing. you split the household chores as, like, you know, for the things that you do better and or you enjoy, and, or, you know, you hate less. And he makes a better fucking cup of coffee than I do. I'm just going to let that be his thing. Oh, by the way, am I allowed to swear on this podcast? I figured I should ask.
Let's put it this way, I fucking will be, so it's...
I try to avoid, there are certain words I try to avoid. I try to avoid the word cunt just because I know people get cranky about it, but you're in the UK, so people don't seem to mind that one over there. In the US, people seem to get annoyed with that one.
We use it as a greeting sometimes, you know, like...
Right? You fucking cunt. And it's like, there's that one, I lived in England for grad school, and like, I got used to people using it, and I came back to the US, and people were shocked at my brazen use of my favorite body part as a word. And I'm like, what? What's wrong with cunts? And people are like, don't say that word. And I'm like, what? Why not? I use mine every day. Like, what's wrong with it?
It's like when somebody says fanny. You know, it's just, there's something not quite right about that. And it's like...
Well, it's funny because in the U.S., fanny means the posterior, and in England it means the anterior. It's two very different words.
But it sounds more clinical though when you use like scientific words for things. You know, it's like your scrotum, your ball. You know, but like you say things like, you know, the ball sack, the knob. You know, I don't know. It just sounds more descriptive, even. I don't know. I miss the Britishes, or it's where exactly in the UK are you from? Because I'm listening to the accent going like, this is where exactly are you from / where are you living now? I'm originally from the Highlands, but now living in Glasgow, up in Scotland.
Gotcha. Nice. It's one of the accents that I like, because it's funny, you tell someone in the U.S. do a British accent and they think like they always go for for South London. They miss that there are that there are number one there are different accents throughout every single through the different countries that make up the UK. That there are different accents in Scotland, in Ireland, in England itself, and it's funny because I had a friend who lived in Yorkshire, and his accent always threw me because at first it sounded Scottish to me, and I'm like, there's a slightly different accent or from the Yorkshire area to Scotland, and it's like it took me forever to differentiate the Yorkshire to Scottish accent, and it's like from living there I can kind of tell where in the country someone's from, but it's still like I'm like, if I hear it I'd rather just ask than try to pin it down because I know I'll fuck them up.
Yeah, I mean, some people take it so personally, you know, it's even though we're all part of, like, Great Britain, some people, you know, you say, oh, are you from so-and-so? I'm not English. And you go, well, where are you from? And it's like a small village in England, and they go, I'm from, like, such and such a place. And it's almost like, you know, we can't possibly be known as this giant organism. We have to be like this individual place, you know, it's almost... And
it's funny because, like, people, people like, it's funny, my mom, her first language, and it's like from living in because I did my grad school in, I have to feel a need to say this very carefully. I went to grad school in Cambridge, but I didn't go to Cambridge University. I went to Anglia Ruskin, another university that happens to be in Cambridge, because if I say I went to university in Cambridge, I know that people get a different impression of where I went to school. I have to say that quite carefully, because I don't want to overstate my qualification. But still, anyways. But I lived over there, and I only picked up a few Britishisms. And I know that there are Americans who, if they're living in England, the first second they're off the plane, they start saying, bloody hell, like, you know, to try to British it up. And that's not a thing that I ever picked up. But the two little Britishisms that really, like, stuck in my language were that I still call, instead of calling my mother mom, I call her mum. Like, and it's funny because my brother calls my mother mom, and I like that little bitty change in how the word mom is said. Like, my mom will catch it, or people will catch me calling her mum instead. And it's like I never started calling her mummy, like, but my mom will always hear it, and she'll be like, mum, huh? I'm like, yeah, mum, get over it. But the other one is the phrase taking the piss. And I think it's because, like, I had a housemate who would he said once, he's like 90% of British males' relationships are based on piss taking, and it's like the first time I heard that, I'm like, what, peeing next to each other? I was so confused because like I'd hear British people saying using the word pissed differently, because if you say I'm pissed in America, it means I'm angry, and if you say I'm pissed in England, it means you're drunk.
There's people who they take it completely serious. You know, like if you're taking the mick out of somebody, you'll never survive in a pub in Britain, because if you know, it's like some of your best friends will destroy you with shit and insults, and then at the end of the day, you go off and have you have food together and go home, and you're just like, when you look at what you say to each other, sometimes you think,
Are you guys okay? Are you guys going to be okay? Is there going to be punching when you leave the pub tonight? Like, and I realized fairly quickly a bunch of my guy friends over there, they just take the piss, and that's just how they are. And like, I came back after seeing how my guy friends treated each other. It's like, oh, they're just taking the piss. And like, I would tease my friends when I got back to the U.S. I'm like, I'm just taking the piss, and they look at me like, what do you mean taking the piss? What is this phrase? And I'm like, I'm just teasing you. And I realized very quickly this was not a Britishism that translated, but it's still a phrase that's stuck in my brain, and I won't, like, I'm like, I refuse to give this phrase up. I want this phrase to become an Americanism too. And like, I don't think it's going to catch on.
I mean, is that something that you see a lot of problems in America? Like, is it quite controlled about, like, you know, say when you did your research on Britain, did you find it was a more open way of looking at research, or do these things not translate worldwide? Like
there were a few, like, I'm trying to think if there were any Americanisms that didn't translate over there, and it's been so long, like, it's been a decade now since I lived over there. But there weren't that many Americanisms that I had a hard time translating that like people didn't get. But there were very, very British phrases that we just don't hear over here. Like little bitty things that I'd have to go, oh, okay, that's a like how to phrase this. Like it would have to come up for me to go, oh, that's a British thing. And it's like, I think it's more like the American colloquialisms, they make their way more over there. And I think it's kind of, like I said earlier, American shit makes its way out of America. The stuff in the rest of the world doesn't make its way back over here. Like, we hear the big ones, like everyone's heard bloody hell. No one's, like, people haven't heard the tiny little stuff. That, like, and I mean, I'm trying to think of stuff, and it's been so long. That I'd have to have, like, that's one of the examples that, like, stuck with me, and it's a thing that I hadn't even heard till I lived over there, and then I come back over here, and it's just always in my head, and whenever I say it, someone goes, huh? And I'm like, what do you mean you haven't heard the phrase taking the piss? And it's like, it's just not a phrase that Americans ever use.
Because you'll get people who, they'll try to classify it and go, oh, that's how you build a social economic group between the males by doing this, and it's your bonding. And we're just sitting there going, no, it's because he's a knob. It's like the American expression for that is, I'm just busting your balls. Like, and that's, and like that's almost the exact expression, but not quite. Like, it's just very slightly off, like, because ball busting is something you can do to anyone, but it's like piss taking, it's slightly different, I don't know, but it's like, there are all these funny little differences that I saw with it, but it's like, Americans don't quite have pub culture. Like, that's something that I really missed about England. Like, if random Tuesday night, nothing to do, no one had papers to work on, like my housemates and I would all go down to the pub and have a drink and then come back and keep drinking. And like, that was the thing that we did. And that's not a thing that I saw us doing, like with any of with my housemates, any place where I had, roommates in the U.S., like that was just what you did when you lived in England. And it's like, I loved it. It was very social when I lived there, and it might have just been that I was in grad school, but that was stuff that like I moved over there and I had a boyfriend that was like living in it. Like, when I worked at summer camp in the U.S., I met a lovely young man who lived in England, and that's part of the reason that I chose to go to grad school in England.
And so I already had a boyfriend over there, and I'd gone to visit him a few times in the UK before I moved. And it's how to phrase, harkening back to our conversation earlier. That's it turned out that the smell of his shit was not something I could put up with. He was a very nice guy, just didn't work out. But like same thing, like pub culture is a thing that seemed to pervade the UK. Like if I was over there and there was nothing to do on a Tuesday night, out with friends. And like that's something that doesn't seem to be a thing in the US, and I miss that. And like it's something that was nice in the UK, and I liked it, and it's not here. But yeah, there are lots of things that I miss from over there.
You do get that quite a bit, though. It's a kind of, you can go into a pub and have a brand new best friend in 10 minutes.
Yeah. Yep, and everyone's very garrulous and very and I mean it's something. Like, I don't know if, like, and I don't know if it's the writer in me or what, but, like, I'm very easy to, it's very easy for me to cloister myself off into my apartment and sit at my computer and write. But, like, as soon as you get me into a social setting, as you can probably tell, it's hard to shut me the fuck up. But I mean, it was wonderful being in England because I learned the people there are great about, like, are wonderfully social as soon as you get them into a pub. And I love that you can meet someone that the next day that you're out hanging out with, and you have, as you said, a new best friend. And like, they're the people in England I found to be simultaneously willing to, like I said, same as me, cloister themselves off and with their laptop and be very quiet, or at the pub the next day, chit-chatting with you like they've known you for 20 years. And I kind of like that about the country. It was I don't know, I found England to be very kind to me, and it was a good time of my life.
Because that's something I liked about your site. Like, that's one of the reasons I initially, it was you used, like, sexuality, swearing, having fun. It was like I was speaking to somebody in the pub about something I just read about in the paper. You talked like a normal person. That's
something I've said about it for a while. I like to say that I'm scientist as drinking buddy. And it's, I think there's no reason to, like, just curious, I know this might be a strange question. Are we recording right now? I have no idea.
Technically, yes, but I can piece bits of this together. I mean, I was going to actually say, is because a lot of that was quite good. I can fit that in, because one of the things I hate is when I sit and have an interview with somebody, and you say to them, okay, and you hear the same thing rehashed over and over.
Yeah.
I mean, every interview I heard, it was something about Gwyneth Paltrow, the food babe, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to rehash every last thing that I've said over and over again. Let's just chit chat. No, but I
want people to come away and say, bloody hell, yeah.
Yeah,
I know about that now. I'm interested in her, like, site, and I want to go and check it out, and I want to know about this and that. But she's a really interesting person.
But anyways, back to your question. The part of the reason that it had kind of the flavor it did was because I wanted it to feel, kind of like you were talking to, Yvette, the human being, not Yvette Dontram, a laboratory chemist. Like, this is Yvette, your drinking buddy, who's going to explain chemistry while we're sitting at the pub. To you, the human being who hasn't taken a chemistry class since you were 15. And that's that's generally the average age that people are required, like, 15, 16, depending on the country you live in. That's about the normal age that people are required to take a science class at. So I'm like, all right, people need to have this explained in a language that they understand. So I try to use, words that people know. I don't want you to have to run to a dictionary every 5 seconds. And I want it to be funny, because that's how I like to read my stuff. Like, when I get home, or, back when I was still working as a lab chemist, because now I work full-time, as a science writer. Like, back when I was working as a lab chemist, when I got home at the end of the day, I didn't read scientific papers like all night. I was reading Cracks.com. I was watching South Park. I was reading stuff that, I was watching stuff that made me laugh. So, like, if I'm sitting there going, if this is what I'm doing with my free time, then I think that's probably what other people are doing with their free time. They want to be entertained, and they want to learn a little bit while they're being entertained. So let's make this for people who, who want to laugh, kind of like me, and they want to learn something. So that's kind of how it got its origins.
I mean, I looked at your site, and I was wanting to start to speak to a scientist, because it got to a point where every time I looked on, say, an article about Trump's claiming this, or there was flat Earth or something like that, and the level of stupidity, for lack of a better word, people just saying things, and it's like, do you think that's something where guys are going wrong now? Is it that we all think we have to have an opinion listened to, and it doesn't, we can't have it questioned? Because some of the claims people are putting out is beyond a joke.
It's how to phrase this nicely. Everyone is entitled to their opinions, but like, just because you have an opinion doesn't mean that it has any validity to it. So I can have an opinion that how to phrase this. I can have an opinion that I have the best goddamn tits on the face of the planet. That opinion is not backed up by other people's subjective opinions. That's a completely subjective opinion with no data, with no other opinions, with no with nothing to back it up. That's just me spouting some shit into the void, okay? There's nothing backing that up. Just because someone says some shit doesn't mean there's anything to give it validity. So look for sources that give something validity. So like whenever, who was it, B.O.B., the rapper who was like, the Earth is flat. I'm like, okay, you who are you again? Just you rap, I guess. And I mean, I'm not saying this to say anything bad about rap. I enjoy hip hop. I enjoy rap. But just because you're famous for rapping doesn't mean you know jack shit about physics or astronomy. It means that you're famous for this other thing. It doesn't mean you know jack about the roundness of the Earth. So seek out people who know things about, how to measure the planet and how to prove if the Earth is, in fact round. Like, that's what I do, is I go to find people who know shit about shit. So, seek out people like Neil deGrasse Tyson and astronomers and people who know these things. Don't seek out your information from people who are just famous for other shit. Like, that's how you find out information.
Because that's what really wound me up. There was a guy who, he was trying to claim that the Earth was flat, for example, by going into a plane, and he took what do you call one of those? Oh my God! To show it's flat, bubble measures, and he put it onto the floor of the plane and said, "There you go, we should be on a
level,
curve."
Yeah.
And it was just that kind of, you're not even understanding your own experiment, and then he's taking an assumption from that. And I remember I read some of the comments when you did your interview with Joe Rogan, and the people who were coming out who no background, no interest in anything, and going, "Oh no, that's not right," and they would come in with, "I read this," and that's the bit that got to me. It was like, no
I
experience.
Read this. Yeah, and it's the Joe Rogan interview was an interesting one, because like Joe brought me onto his, and I was really appreciative. I had a lot of fun, and Joe strikes me as an inquisitive person who, he's trying to find out what's true and what's not. And I respect that about him, even if I don't always agree with his conclusions. And I appreciate someone who's trying to learn. And that was, it was a fun podcast. It was, I was on my toes for a lot of that. But my God, I got 3 weeks of hate mail for that. But, hate mail kind of makes me laugh at this point. Like, that's just part of the job when you're putting out a lot of opinions that people are going to disagree with, even if those opinions are based in goddamn fact. Like, people are just going to yell at you a lot. So there was, I was on there to talk about chiropractic, and like Joe's one of my friends described some of his followers as the Brogan army. So he has a lot of interesting followers who have a lot of very, shall we say, firmly held beliefs. And that includes everything from the Earth being flat to the fact that, how dare Joe speak anything ill of chiropractic, which was what I was on there to talk about. And I was there not to convince Joe that chiropractic was bad. He already had that opinion, and he hunted down my article, which, was heavily cited, which, went, and I cited in that article that there are some chiropractors that are trying to introduce, evidence and peer-reviewed studies into the field. But I said that the field of chiropractic was based on a lot of pseudoscience, and it started out with a guy literally holding seances to try to form this field. And, I didn't deny in the field that some people have had relief from it. Like, I'm not trying to say that if you've had relief from chiropractic that that's not true. Like, if you've gone to a chiropractor and have had some back relief, that's completely feasible. However, a lot of what they do that gives back relief is massage mixed in with this spinal manipulation. And the other thing is, if you're trying to get back relief out of spinal manipulation, the much safer way to do this is with a doctor of osteopathy who knows much more about anatomy than a doctor of chiropractic. So there were many, many things that we discussed on that, and I got so much hate mail. So I don't know if you read my article on that or not, but there were a couple of responses written to my article on chiropractic, and none of them were disputing the facts of the article. They were all just kind of yelling at me that I was not a babe. There were a lot of ad hominem attacks. I'm like, wow, you really debunked all that science that I wrote about. And it's like, at this point, I just laugh when people attack me. It's like, that's the only way to survive these things. Like, you can sit there and cry when people spew venom at you, or you can go, "Oh, you called me a cunt. Oh, you have a lot of science to back you up, don't you?" Like, you can't survive when you're writing things that ruffle people's feathers if you have a thin skin. Like, it's either grow a very thick skin and deal with the fact that you're going to have hell rained upon you, or sit there and eat Ben & Jerry's every night to try to cope with people yelling at you. And I just kind of chose thick skin and deal with the fact that I'm ruffling feathers, because if all people have to deal with the fact that I'm debunking something that they hold dear is to shout hatred at me, it means that they don't have any science. Like, because if I'd gotten the facts wrong, I'd be very happy to change my mind. But it doesn't seem like that's the case.
Well, it was like people were commenting saying, I know the name from the site, for example, it's a play on the food babe and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But people are kind of saying, "Oh, she's not a babe," or it's somebody who calls herself a babe. And like that made your opinion or your, the stated facts, which you were backing up with your evidence, was incorrect because they didn't fancy
I'm like,
you.
I can number one, I am damn near fuckable with 2 beers in your system, okay? So that's good enough for that title, all right? And number 2, that
should be your tagline.
Exactly, damn near fuckable with 2 beers in your system. But no, number 2, if I wanted to go with something else, look, your Hitachi will fuck me no matter how many beers you give it, so that works. But it's the other thing is, like, the babe thing was a joke. And it's, you know what, gosh darn it, you layer enough makeup on me, I'm adorable. But the other thing is, they had nothing to argue with in terms of the science, so they just went for ad hominem attacks, which I'm like, I've said many, many times, if they wanted to argue with the science, I would listen, and they didn't. So, that was kind of telling, to say the least. But, the other thing that they kept coming back with was anecdote after anecdote after anecdote. I'm like, no matter how many no matter how many anecdotes you come back with, that's not data. So I would have loved to have seen someone come back with, something to debunk the studies I wrote or something, but that wasn't what happened. So it was a little bit sad.
I mean, I kind of get it by looking at your site. I mean, you have, like, for example, say we're on the homepage, for example, and there's an article about does a sperm take on the DNA of, like a child take on the DNA of all male partners? So, you could use
man.
for that. And then, further down the page, an incomplete list of complete bullshit websites. So immediately, that's people's opinion, oh, but I like so-and-so. Oh, no, she's got to be wrong. Even though the evidence is right in one thing, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and I can see why I ruffle people's feathers. Like I'm not unaware of why I invoke some strong opinions in the people that don't like me. Not unaware of this at all, but you know what? Like there are two options that you have when you do something like this. You can be very you can either opt to be bombastic and be very clear in what you believe and let people hate you a little bit. And that's kind of the route I've chosen, because there's no victory in this if I'm not, how to phrase this, there's no victory in this if I'm not very ardent in how I present things, because there's, I'm fighting with people that are presenting fake cancer cures and things that take people's money for health that for health products that don't work. And that's I think that doing things in a way that really gets a message out there is important. And I'm not going to be dishonest in what I do, because I think that puts me in legally tenuous territory. I try to be very, as my lawyer has phrased it, I try to be legally defensible in how I write, and I try very, very carefully to accurately represent what the people who I'm fighting against say. So if I'm writing about the Food Babe, I'm writing about David Avocado Wolf, I'm writing about a chiropractor, I aim to represent them accurately, even if I'm aiming to represent them in a negative light. So if they've said something, I'm not going to write about it in a dishonest way, but I am going to write about it negatively, which I think is an honest way to work. But they can dislike that all they want. It's not going to make it untrue.
So, we all look at things, with our own personal BS and our biasisms and our own beliefs, etc. So, how would you say to people not to listen to the fact that you're female or judge your attractiveness or whatever drama they're attaching to it, but to actually listen to what you're saying? How should they use and develop their own critical thinking? So actually listen to it rather than just going, no, she doesn't know what she's talking about.
Well, there was a funny thing that I did I had a presentation very recently at the American Atheist Conference, and I said, you shouldn't take bad health advice from anyone, no matter how attractive they are or unattractive they are. And I said that there was, you get bad health advice, and part of the reason that gurus manage to spread bad health advice is because they're really, really attractive. And people like Gwyneth Paltrow and Food Babe and even David Avocado Wolf, they just look so natural, and they always look backlit, don't they? And I tell people to question me, to question all the advice I'm giving. And even if, don't take the advice straight from me, fact check me. I don't tell people to take the advice from me without questioning it. And I put up in this was just this wonderful little demonstration of why we don't take advice from pretty people without questioning it. I put up a slide of Gwyneth Paltrow saying, she just looks glowy and naturally and healthy. And, that's part of the reason why people take all this health advice from her, is because she, you think if you buy this product from her website, you're going to look like her. That might not be what people are thinking when they buy it, but subconsciously, that's kind of the thought, right? So, have the slide of her. I'm like, but, she doesn't have any medical training. So, is it, would people take this health advice from another actor who maybe has a little more medical training? So I clicked to the next slide, and it was a picture of Steve Buscemi. I'm mixing up the pronunciation of his name, but it's the guy from the movie Armageddon. Yeah, he's has slightly he's, shall we say, his features are a shade less fair than Miss Paltrow. But here's the thing: he was a New York City firefighter from 1980 to 1984, which means he was also an EMT. he has more medical training than Ms. Paltrow. And he is, shall we say, not quite the beacon of loveliness that some might say Ms. Paltrow is. I don't think people would listen to Steve if he were to tell people you should shove a jade egg into your vagina. But he has more medical training than her. I just think that it's funny that people will listen to someone when they're really, really attractive, and not, when they're just a shade less glowy, when they're just a shade less lovely. But I tell people, question me all the time, fact check my work, and when I'm wrong, I'll edit my things and I'll put it right there on my site that I've edited something if I have, and specifically if I've edited something for a piece of factual information. But I want people to question me. I think it's important for people to fact check my information. But that's part of my big thing is don't treat me like a guru, because that's not what I'm ever aiming to be.
But it was that moment of I completely agree with that, because you get these people who come through and say, oh yeah, everybody's buying it, so I'm going to buy it. It works because so many people. It wouldn't be fake if so many people were buying it, or they trust them because they're famous. Then I'm going to get it. Oh,
that's a bad reason to trust someone. Like I never want, like, somebody the other day on the internet, somebody was I dropped into a thread to just because I'll just because no matter what, I'm still an asshole and I will still just argue with someone on the internet because it's there to be argued. And I dropped into a thread and argued about something, and someone said back, nope, I'm not going to argue with Cybabe. I'm like, no, argue with me. It wasn't that I was raring for an argument, but I didn't want someone to back down from their point just because it was me. That was and it's I think that their reasoning was I was probably right because I wouldn't back up the statement just because, if it was Cybabe, I would probably not back up a bad statement. But, I'm like, no, I could be wrong. There's a chance that I stumbled across a bad piece of information. I don't want people to back down from me. And that's a scary thing. And it worries me that people will one day not argue with me because they think that I couldn't possibly get a bad piece of information. And it's possible that I could. That's a thing that could happen, and because I'm human and I'm not infallible. Nobody is. I argue with other people in skepticism all the time because we're just a bunch of assholes trying to figure shit out.
Well, that was one of the criticisms I noticed about it. Was quite a few people were saying with the interview with Joe Rogan, you were there for 2.5 hours and
oh man,
you mispronounced some of the phrases. You couldn't use you couldn't quote a particular site, and I was thinking, if I didn't have my Evernote page open sometimes, I would forget a question I wrote a minute ago.
Oh my God, yeah.
Just because you can't remember it doesn't mean you don't know it.
Well, there was one word I was trying to find. It was either endocrinology or immunology, and for full disclosure on that, I'm on a medication for my headaches, Topamax, that sometimes gives you a side effect where you have a hard time finding words. And that is my biggest fear when I'm on podcasts the term for that is aphasia, where you can't find words. And that is always my biggest fear when I go on a podcast, is sitting there hunting for words and not being able to find them. So I'm sitting there, of course, going, fuck, what is the word for this? I'm going to look like an asshole. And I'm looking for, I don't remember off the top of my head, it was either immunology or, I think it was immunology that I'm hunting for. And I'm like, God, what the fuck is the word for that? And I couldn't find it. And of course, I'm sitting there going, blonde moment. And I'm like, all of Joe Rogan's followers are going to fucking jump on me for that. And of course they did. But it's that's the type of shit that happens when you're managing a chronic condition and you're on the air live and you don't want to say, by the way, I'm on this. And of course, someone, if I'd said that, someone in the audience would have been like, she should try chiropractic. It'll help her headaches. I'm sure that's the thing that would have happened. If chiropractic could have helped my headaches by now, I promise you it would have.
Well, see, that's the moment. It's people are sitting there going, oh no, she made a mistake, right? That means everything else is wrong. Everything.
And it's hard to eloquate that out because I promise you, if I've just been there, because he has other people on just to shoot the shit, who don't have to back up a very complicated subject that they've researched for a few weeks, like that they're not like, and it's like, yeah, I don't know as much about chiropractic as a chiropractor. Yeah, I can guarantee you that, but I also know enough about the history of it to tell you that it's bullshit. There's like, it's pretty easy to tell you that, you know, the whole field, like I can tell you a few things about it. Number one, if you're, like they misrepresent the field to their patients. Not all of them. There are some of them that, you know, that from conversations with them, and I mean, I've had a decent number of them, and this is crazy to me. I think at this point 3 or 4 of them have emailed me to say, I loved your article. Halfway through school, I realized how much bullshit I was being fed because I thought I was going to school to learn how to fix back pain. And either halfway through or partway through my first year, I realized I was fucked. This was a bullshit field, and I needed to, you know, I was so far in debt because of being in school that I'm like, you know what, I'll be able to at least make a decent living. I'm going to try to find a way to market this that doesn't make me feel icky about it. And I'm going to, you know, and I'm going to work this out. And a few of them went to their websites and saw, I'm like, wow, they're not trying to tell people that they can fix their life by adjusting their back. So they worked physical therapy into it and worked ways out that it wasn't, you know, telling people I can fix your gallbladder by adjusting your back. So there have been a few chiros that came, and one of them pointed me towards, and this was nuts to me. There is a forum full of chiropractors talking about how bullshit chiropractic was. Like, that was the craziest thing that was the craziest little tumble down this rabbit hole that happened after doing this article, was a forum full of chiropractors discussing how bullshit chiropractic was. Like, I didn't expect that to happen, but apparently, like, a bunch of them have all decided this is nuts. Like, it's like, yeah, it can help relieve some back pain, not quite as well as massage, but it definitely can't do all the other shit that they claim it can do.
So
or at least at this point, let me just make that legally defensible. It does not seem to do all the other shit it claims it can do.
So how does that build? You know, because there must have been a point where somebody either thought it did that or has lied about that. You know, it's how can they defend that in that way? If you know,
you mean how does a chiropractor defend that it does all the things that they claim it does?
Yeah, I mean, because surely the whole nature of science, rather than versus opinion, is that science is provable, repeatable, and they're observable facts. And that, say, I could do the exact same experiment here that you could do over there, and we'd get the same results. This is one of the things that I would have to say. It's hard to prove exactly what's happening with it, but the best way I can say it, because a lot of the things that they claim are things like some of this is stuff like, you know, with childhood and infant chiropractic, like they'll claim that they can fix ear infections, and 60 to 80% of ear infections kind of clear up on their own. So they adjust, and this is insane that they do this. They'll adjust like a child's neck, and then they'll be like, oh look, the ear infection went away. Well, it was going to go away on its own. They'll claim they can fix bedwetting. Well, the child was going to learn how to not wet the bed eventually. Like, that's the thing that was going to go away on its own. Back pain. Well, they give you a back adjustment, and then they do a bunch of physical therapy exercises along with it. Well, physical therapy is amazingly good at fixing back pain. So that's, it's like, it was funny because I read an article recently from a science writer who I love very much over at Vox, and she put physical therapy into the alternative therapy category, and physical therapy isn't alternative therapy, it's therapy. So, that's, like, if you have a chiropractor who's giving you therapy, like, giving you strengthening exercises, that's the type of therapy that actually works. If you strengthen the muscles around the spine, it does tend to help. So that, long term, strengthen the muscles up, exercise. And there are a handful of exercises that long term will work. And I need to find I can shoot this over to you after the show. But there was
it was an article in Vox from Julia Belluz that was talking about some of the therapies that long-term work on back pain, but there are 3 specific exercises that if you do every day do tend to reduce the incidence of low back pain, that have just, that I know a couple of physicians that continue to do them to both reduce their own back pain and reduce the possible incidence of it over time. I wish I had them off the top of my head, but like you said, you don't remember things on the fly all the time.
Well, see, that's the thing, is somebody listening to this who maybe agrees that, maybe disagrees with something that you've just said, will go, no, see, can't prove it, not true.
It's like, how dare I not remember every article I've read on the weekend that I've moved in 115-degree weather.
I mean,
so.
I've got I was going to say chiropractor. I don't know why I suddenly had the speech impediment. The chiropractor coming later
apparently, on. Speech impediments are apparently, you can catch them when you're hanging out with me. So.
But, it's like, I don't know enough about this. Now, part of my show is for me to learn more about things, and I know that other people do as well. So, I don't know enough to say, you're wrong, they're wrong, whatever. But I want to listen to both sides to make a valued opinion by saying, okay, see what you claim, see what they claim, and see what I can discover, and make my own opinion from it.
Yeah.
But how do you tell people? And I'm fed up of you see it in YouTube arguments the whole time. They all come in with their own personal bias. How can they learn to look at this with an open view? What's a warning thing in your thinking that makes you should immediately go, oh, no, I'm looking at that skewed. I'm looking at that as a loaded question.
Well, let's see. When it comes to something like chiropractic, or never mind just chiropractic, with any type of medicine, no one thing causes, or generally, no one thing causes everything to go wrong. So no one treatment should cause everything to be fixed, right? Like, I get it. When you get a flu or a cold, you feel like everything's gone to shit. But, like, you don't expect one thing to fuck up everything in your life. Like, you have, for example, like I have a trigeminal nerve headache. That trigeminal nerve headache doesn't cause my left foot to fall asleep. It doesn't cause constipation. It doesn't cause it doesn't cause other I'm not saying I'm constipated, but moving on. Like, it doesn't cause other random things, Like, back pain doesn't cause other shit. So you wouldn't expect a treatment for your back to randomly cause your spleen to feel better. It doesn't cause other things in your body to feel better. And at this point, chiropractic isn't like, adjusting your spine. Other things for your spine, like physical therapy, like strengthening exercises, don't cause other systems of your body to improve in health. So why would chiropractic? It's kind of pseudoscience-y. And you see that with other, kind of alternative health modalities. So when you hear things about a detox, like it claims that it makes like all of your systems feel better, and there's just no proof to that. So like, with other medications, like, yeah, they can affect other systems, but they don't work on other systems. They don't specifically, fix other systems. And I'm sure somebody's going to say, what about side effects? But like, there's this strange claim in chiropractic that it somehow heals every system all at once just by touching your spine. And there's just no evidence of this at this point. And there's no, like, firm evidence. And I want people to critically examine any claim that something in your health is a panacea. So, because there's nothing in your health that fixes everything. And that's just, like, basically anytime you see something claiming to be a panacea, run. Because it might fix one or two things, but it's not going to fix everything. Be very, very critical of that.
So how can somebody who's listening, who maybe is interested in these sort of things, or, has an illness or a condition that they want to deal with, but as soon as we start talking about ad hominem, cognitive dissociations, all these kind of things, how can somebody whose head just starts spinning with some of these terms, understand it in layman terms? Are there things that they should watch out for, or how can they start really understanding science? Apart from reading your site, obviously. There are a couple different things that I suggest. Whenever you hear a claim that's too good to be true,
it's probably too good to be true. So a couple things that I do kind of for my debunking process. Number one, look to see if there's another side to like, number one, first, if you're suffering with your health, that sucks. I've been through hell with my health, and I did try everything. Like, so if somebody's sitting here going, Yvette, you just didn't try it. I did. Like, when my headache started, I went vegan, organic. I tried paleo. I went down, that's like a level 5 crime in the world of doing bullshit. I did everything. So if you try telling me I haven't tried all of these things and that's why I don't believe in it, like, no, I tried. I seriously did. And you know what works? Medicine. So if you're suffering with your health, number one, go to your doctor. Seriously. Like, a couple of jackasses talking on a podcast, like, we're fun, but the first place you should be is your doctor. But number two, like, if treatment is taking a long time and you're starting to get desperate, and you're going through like food blogs and alternative health bloggers, this is a sign to you that something is going severely wrong, and you shouldn't be seeking out health advice from bloggers. Like, going through forums and going and looking for help from people who have also been there, that makes sense because you're in a support group and you're asking other people for what worked for them. But if a blogger is telling you, give me your money for $19.95 a month, I can give you the secret to health, like, that's some bullshit right there. Don't give your money to a person on the internet who's going to give you a secret to health. Like, there's no secret to health, there's medicine, and that's the stuff that's been proven to work. Like, don't dole out tons of money on supplements, because those, if it says on the bottle, these statements haven't been evaluated by the FDA, that's generally a big old flashing sign that means this does jack shit. Like, every so often there's a supplement that your doctor will tell you need to take it because you're deficient in something, but other than that, most of them don't do anything. Like I said, most of them, there are a few provisos in there. Folic acid for prenatal care, that has been proven to work. Make sure you have a brand that's certified, all that good stuff. And I believe creatinine does some work for lifters, but in conjunction with diet and exercise. But other than that, a lot of them only take if you're deficient on something. Moving on, if something claims to be a panacea for everything, probably some bullshit. If someone's claiming that they have a secret to health that doctors are keeping from you, I promise you not the case, because doctors are, like, I promise you they didn't go through like 10 years of school and get into like $500,000 of debt to keep shit from you. They went through all that schooling to try to get you fucking healthy. So if someone's telling you that doctors are lying to you, but they who took like a 2-week course on essential oils, oh yeah, they're in it for altruistic fucking purposes. No, they're in it to make money. They found an advertisement that said, do you want to make money from home and have fun at the same time? No, they're trying to make money. I promise you. That's a thing that's happening. Because the essential oils and the juicing market, that's like billion-dollar industry. So, and it's never been proven to cure a case of cancer or whatever the fuck you have. So don't listen to those people. They're bullshit artists too. Again, do you notice the theme here of go to your doctor? Try to see if there's another side to the story. Look for peer-reviewed evidence, and if you need help, places with really critical analysis of evidence are places like my website with a lot of swearing, or if you prefer less swearing, places like Science-Based Medicine have really good reviews of a lot of things like this. ScienceBasedMedicine.org, really, really good place with rundowns of all the evidence. Heavily cited. Dr. David Gorski is a really, really good person who's got a lot of reviews of these types of things over on Sci-Based Medicine. Anyways, that's a good review of it. Always ask, like I said, always ask if there's another side of the story. Look to see where the balance of evidence is. And if it's on a place like naturalnews.com, Mercola.com, or InfoWars, fucking run. That's about it. Or DavidAvocadoWolf.com, because avocados are delicious, but not if they're in somebody's middle name. That's about it.
Because you see that the whole time, though. You know, I go to the gym. I have built up my deadlift, say, for example.
Nice.
And I have people who will turn around and they'll say, but no, that's not the way you do it, because they watched a YouTube video that says this.
Oh, jeez.
Rather than somebody who's actually done it, who can show them a
Yes.
training method to do it, or like how to take this as basic as possible. How do you explain,
how do you know?
say, to somebody from opinion of something to evidence? Because you see this the whole time of, yeah, there's a God. Why? Because I've read the Bible, I believe in it.
Oh.
But what evidence is there? No, I can feel him around. And it's like, but that's not evidence. It's your opinion, and there needs to be evidence. I know it's a touchy subject and emotion and stuff like that, but how can you get to that point where you explain that with people? Because it's almost like it's, no, it's my opinion. I feel it, so I don't need to prove it.
It's like, no, you believe that this is a thing that's happening. I have evidence in this thing. I can, like, this was, I'm trying to remember who said this, and it was I think it was a comic, but this was beautiful. Like, if we burned this whole place to the fucking ground, just nothing left but the cockroaches and Keith Richards, which we all know is how it would go. If we just burned everything to the ground and had to start civilization over again, science would come back exactly as we left it. The chemicals would combine in the exact same way. We would find the exact same evidence all over again of how life works. Caffeine would fuel you the same way. Salt would combine the same way to make food fucking delicious. And everything would work the same way. Physics would happen the same goddamn way. Water would hydrate you the same way. Everything would work the same way. Quantum mechanics would work the same way, and only 2 people on the planet would understand it. That's exactly how everything would happen. But you know what? A different batch of gods, a fucking different batch of gods, and a different batch of bullshit would show up. That's exactly what would happen. We'd have a whole new set of bullshit. But I can almost guarantee you that toxins, that people would claim that detoxes worked, because that's just a thing that we've seen through history. People have claimed, but you know what? We've had different types of detox type things through history. At one point, people claimed that your body formed the toxins after you ate the food. No matter what you ate, you became food became toxic within you, but that you had to detox anyway. So no matter what, like, you were just a toxic piece of human garbage. And no matter how you ate, you're just toxic. And like at one point, I believe it was, and this is in my friend Alan Levinovitz's book, The Gluten Lie, wonderful book. And he said, originally, and it was picking apart the gluten myth. And it's funny, he's a religion professor who ended up writing a book on food, because he was looking at, I believe it was Buddhist monks who'd first started saying you have to avoid grains, and you can get like the secrets to immortality, and that eventually you can fly. And eventually they changed their story because nobody started flying for some crazy reason. And then eventually they changed their story to saying that you had to avoid meat instead of grains. But like this thing where you have to avoid certain foods to become like healthy and enlightened and spiritually like better than everyone else, it's always been with us. This is not new. It's just, it's just a trend that seems to keep popping up in crazy enough, really, really rich areas of the world. Funny how that works.
Yeah, and it's always when there's something to be sold. It's always,
yep.
I found this secret thing, which I'm now going to sell to you. And
exactly. Here's the secret to health for a crazy amount of money. The secret to health is always, there's no secret, just eat your fruits and vegetables and move some. Find a way that you like moving and do it.
See, that's the way I always say to people is, if you don't like the gym, don't go to the gym. Do something else.
Go outside, move, go hiking, get outside for 30 to, or do some moving to 30 to 45 minutes about 4 to 5 days a week, and you'll probably be all right. Don't smoke. Get your fruits and veggies. Don't eat too much. Like whatever way, and I mean, people will go back and forth on if carbs or fats or whatever form of calories. Just don't eat too many fucking calories. Like, the enemy is not carbs or fats or proteins. The enemy is too much. Like that's, and I'm sure somebody will disagree with me on that, but like time and time again, and they've done experiments on this, and I can send it over to you after this. There's this great website, Physiognomic, that has a couple of articles compiling study after study showing that if you get somebody on a limited calorie diet, no matter what the composition has been, people will lose weight and get their weight to a stable point. And it's just that people are very bad at counting calories.
Because that's what I always say to people is, if you accept eating food has calories. Calories
Yes.
are what either loses weight or like eating calories puts on weight. If
Yes,
we spend
absolutely.
if we spend more calories than we eat, we lose weight.
Yep,
And
I
then
mean,
if we, and vice versa. And
yep,
it's
and quality of the food counts. Like you should get more fruits and veggies, but like no matter, like even if you get your calories in the form of all protein shakes or all like all Twinkies, you'll get, like, as long as it's below the threshold that you're burning, you'll lose weight. And I mean, there are complications there. Some people, like if you're on steroids, if you're on medications that screw with your metabolic rate or make it more likely for you to put on water weight or whatnot, there are some complications that a small percentage of the population has. I promise you, in America, we are not all experiencing a metabolic issue. We're experiencing a calorie issue, okay? But there's, we're notoriously bad at tracking our calories, and in an environment where there's an excess of calories available, people will eat those excess calories. There's no way around that. So if people have to be more conscientious of what they're putting into their mouths and move a little bit more, and that's the way around that. There's no secret. There's no one perfect human diet. It's what works for you and keeping track of what you eat, and that's gonna. I mean, like I know I've heard people say like, oh, but this diet healed X, Y, and Z, health issue of mine. Yeah, it's because you lost weight, so your joints felt better because you weren't carrying extra weight on them. Like a lot of different health issues are known to feel better when you're at a healthy weight. Like, and I mean, I get it. There are going to be people that are going to yell at me for my use of the term healthy weight. It's like, let's just go with the standard medical definition of healthy weight. And there's a certain range for that. And some people it's higher and some people it's lower. But you know what I mean when I say healthy weight.
I mean, it's the dull end of the spectrum. If you wanted to be very specific, you could go into very technical and break down the terms, but a lot of people don't understand that, and it's when I try to explain it to, say, people in my office at work, you'd explain it and they'd say, oh, no, I've read about this brand new diet where it's a cleanse diet where you only eat such and such and you only drink, this particular fruit juice for a while. And you think, and they go, because it detoxes my body. And I thought, that's what the liver does. And it's just, rather than go for a walk.
Did you have your liver removed? My God, you must be very ill.
Because, rather than go for a walk, for example, they would rather sit there and eat a bunch of sweets as they talk about needing to lose weight. And then they'll go, okay, I'm on a diet now. And all a diet does is it makes your willpower struggle because you're punishing yourself. You're not eating healthy. I mean, I still eat the odd snack and all that, but I'm losing weight because I'm eating, on the whole,
healthier. Yeah, I mean, it is, like, people are bad at moderation. And I mean, it's, like, I go back and forth between trying to figure out, is it, how much of someone's fault is it when you, like, humans are not, like, I'd say we're not designed, but we're not evolved. We've not evolved to be in this environment in which we have tons of calories available to us all the time. Like, this is not what we were developed for, because, like, we've been around for, give or take, like, this species that we are right now, because, there was a slow evolution to Homo sapiens. The Homo sapien has been around, I believe, if I'm recalling my forensic anthropology courses correctly, about 200,000 years. And over that time, it was only about the last 10, 15,000 where we had a lot more calories available to us. And in that last 10,000, we've only had the type of technology where we can make a lot of food available very recently. So it's strange for us as a species to to have a lot of calories available, and we're just now getting used to that. We're figuring out how do we manage buttloads of calories. We don't know how to do that, and we're trying to figure out, like, how do we manage this? And in that time, we're doing some stupid shit. And, some people are saying there's a secret to health. And I mean, whenever I hear secret to health, it's like, no. Just don't be stupid about this new fucking non-scarcity that we're living in. And that's something that we have to get right with. And we have to learn how to cope with, is that we're now the most successful species that has ever lived, to the point where it's killing us.
Because you'll have people who will argue the fact that, you don't know what you're talking about in toxicology area, for example. But then they'll turn around and take their kid for a McDonald's every day for breakfast. And you just think, how can somebody who generally does that, with that kind of level of critical thinking, seriously question somebody who's spent years working and learning about this kind of things and has the research and the experience to back it up? It really puzzles me how some people, like laymen, can actually question, like, NASA. Like, this, there's an ice wall around the Earth, the flat Earth, and the governments are stopping us from going out there to see the truth. But that allows them to keep in that bullshit belief,
I was trying to think of that, and I just, every time I hear something about someone that stupid, my brain goes blank for a moment. I'm sorry, but what I think is funny about that is people will take the predictions from NASA short term, like about a giant hurricane coming to drown their city, but they won't take the predictions long term, like about climate change, or that, the climate changing leads to those giant hurricanes that are fucking up the planet. So it's very interesting what people will listen to and what they won't listen to. And by interesting, I mean horrifying. But people will go back and forth and say, science doesn't know everything. Science can't explain everything. I'm like, no, science doesn't know everything. Science is a way to learn about everything. Science is a way to observe the universe and learn about the universe. It's basically, science admits it doesn't know everything, but that's the beauty of it. It's the way by which we know everything, because science says we don't know, let's find out. And that's like, one day we might know everything, and the way we're going to know that is by science, is by looking around and saying, I don't know, I've got a question, let's find the answer to it. So we make observations, we take measurements, and we try to come to a conclusion. And once we think we have an answer to it, we run that experiment again, and we have another lab run that experiment, and we see if we come to the same conclusion. If we don't, we go, all right, there's something interesting here. Let's see if we can replicate this, or if there's something wrong with our experiment. And we try to get more data and more data and more data until we think we have a firm conclusion. And that's how science works. It's not just one asshole has an idea and then we go to like the board of science and science says, here's our conclusion because an old white man in a suit said so. It's a bunch of fucking data that eventually points to one picture after a ton of research, and that's science.
I mean, for example, to follow on to that, the idea of a theory, the theory of gravity, the theory of revolutions, that's a nightclub. You know what I mean? It's like people go, oh, gravity's just a theory, evolution's just a theory. At what point, it's the fact that the idea of a theory in science means different to a theory in a belief.
Yeah, because a theory in science is basically, it's kind of like we use the term theory when we say, I had a thought, in casual language. And theory in science is akin to a law, basically. It's like we have no higher bit of proof, because, like you said, gravity is considered a theory, but theory is, it's at the point where, we've got this shit figured out. So when someone goes, it's just a theory, it's like, God damn it, you have found no better way to make me grind my teeth. So this is very, very different than, what we use for theory and casual language.
I have to sort of explain it to people over and over.
The best way I found to explain it is when someone says, I have a theory, I'm like, no, you have a hypothesis. You have a thought. That is not what we mean by theory in science.
And this is the thing, it's the people kind of immediately go, the kind of the cognitive dissociation, or the personal bias, no, see, it's just a theory, that means that it's not true, it's just what they think is happening, it definitely isn't observable. Or for evolution, show me it happening. Show me an animal that's jumped, evolved in the last year. And you're thinking, but that's not the way it works.
Well, we do have, and I mean, I could be wrong. If someone at home is listening, go ahead and fact check me. But I believe, and this is something that I want to say it was my high school biology teacher who talked about this. We have a species of geese that is currently undergoing evolution, and they were evolving into a subspecies. Subspecies means that they were that they could still breed within from one to the other, but they were we were seeing that happening within our lifetime, that they were diverging from just one species into a species and a subspecies. So that's a thing that we could see happening. But that takes a very, very long time for them to go from one species into two completely divergent species. But there's some.
It's like the finches, is it the Galapagos Islands, where their beaks change shape. They were still technically finches, but their beaks change depending on the type of the insects and the terrain that they're eating from.
And I think people have a misunderstanding of how evolution works. So what happens? And this is an interesting thing that happens over time. And this again, it's over a long period of time. It's not that. It's not that a group will say humans are living in a part of the world that it would be very advantageous for us to suddenly grow a very, very long nose. No good reason, just, a very long nose would be advantageous. It's not that humans will spontaneously grow a long nose. It's that the people in that population with longer noses will survive. And this is just, hypothetical. So, the people with longer noses will breed with people with other longer noses, and they will eventually, have a breed of human with, this is, this is just, like I said, completely hypothetical. You'll eventually have a breed of human that survived with crazy long noses. Now, there are a couple ways that can occur. One is through selective breeding. If somehow they go, wow, it would be great if we had long noses to reach into this cave that has the honey that we need to survive. I'm turning us into bees for whatever reason. Just work with me on this hypothetical, okay? But there are a couple ways it could happen. One is through everyone dying out that doesn't have this long nose that can reach into this thing. I don't know why I'm having us reach in with a nose instead of a finger. Just go with me on this. So one is through everyone dying out that doesn't have a thing that can reach into this. The other is through selective breeding. So there are a couple ways this can occur, and that happens within the animal kingdom when species evolve like that. Is through creatures dying out that don't have the advantageous traits, and the other is through just selective breeding. And generally when species die out, it's just they don't have the traits that are advantageous, and the ones that do have traits that are advantageous keep on breeding. So it's not that we spontaneously evolve those crazy traits. It's the ones that do have the traits just keep on, win in the population wars, basically.
Yeah, it's when I start having to explain what natural selection is, selective advantage, why that, because of the Industrial Revolution, that, grey, dull-coloured butterflies are, coming out more because the bright-coloured butterflies are getting eaten because they're easy to spot.
Yeah.
I know that's a very bad interpretation of what I was meaning, but, you have to explain it to such a level, and I know people go on about Donald Trump and fake news and all this kind of stuff, but this has gone on for years and years and years, and I just don't understand why, we can not see the world or try to understand it. We just want to believe a book written 2,000 years ago, or what your parents have taught you when you're growing up, or your belief about homosexuality, or it's such a messed up world we're living in at the moment. So how have you got, like, say, some challenges that you would give to somebody listening to become more scientific? How to do scientific your life up?
Let's see. How to scientific your life up. Well, number one, if you try to think of what you count on when your life absolutely depends on it, and at the end of the day, I would hope you count on science because, and this is the best example I always go back to, when you think about things like the anti-vaxxers, and this is my favorite example of this, when they try to claim that things like hygiene has gotten rid of viruses and not vaccines. We don't have smallpox anywhere on the planet anymore. I mean, the dirtiest fucking village where there's no money and you don't even trust the water. Like there's smallpox nowhere except for, I believe, like one laboratory. It's contained in like a couple of vials somewhere in a locked vault that like nobody has access to. It doesn't matter where you walk on this planet anymore. No smallpox. Dirtiest village where you're afraid to fucking breathe or drink the water. No smallpox. And why? Because of science. Not because of religion, not because of hygiene practices, not because of wishful thinking. So if you want to bet your money on anything, bet it on modern medicine and the work of scientists, because it is one of very few things that has improved the lives of all of us and saved countless lives, more lives than you or I or anyone that probably will. It has saved and enhanced the lives of all of us, the poorer people on the planet, the people that are monetarily endowed. All of us have been made better by science, and not just vaccines, but wait for it. I'm going to defend pesticides and the Green Revolution because without them we have famine, and right now, far away from us, in 4 countries in Africa, they are undergoing famine that's probably going to wipe out millions of lives. And they have access to sunshine. They have access to water. They don't have access to seeds that are able to deal with seasons that undergo lower amounts of rain, and they don't have access to low-till farming methods. They don't have access to the types of farming that we have in the U.S. Where we have these seasons of plenty, where we have too much food. So while we're sitting here trying to figure out how to lose weight in America, they're starving to death in 4 countries in Africa. So while we're complaining about how we do a detox, which is just a fancy word for drinking our food, to try to lose 10 pounds because we're really, rich and overfed. And these quote unquote detoxes, they're just a juice diet for, in which we juice our food and throw out half the calories in the form of fiber, which is really fucking stupid. They would kill for all that fiber that we throw out from the food in these countries, and they can't get to it because they don't have modern farming techniques. So while we complain about pesticides and GMOs, they would love them. They would goddamn love them. So we're complaining about science, and we're complaining about, these newer techniques that would save lives. And I've heard people actually say, well, and this is something I've heard from people who live in very rich parts of the world and who are very insulated from anything actually going wrong, saying, well, if they need GMOs and pesticides to live, maybe they should just die. I'm like, if that's what you have to say, maybe you should start with yourself. That is not a line that I ever want to hear from another rich, well-fed person living in air conditioning in Berkeley, California. My God. So if you want to bank on anything, bank on vaccines, bank on modern farming, and bank on science, because it has saved and enhanced the lives of more people than religion or wishful thinking or thoughts and prayers ever will. Because science is saving lives, and it's probably saved yours.
No, I 100% agree. And it's that moment that, it brings us back to that thing of, it's almost like people want something to complain about. They want to have something wrong with the world, where there's people who would go through bins to eat things because their kids are starving. And, we're complaining about something that we're controlling. For example, the people who go on about animal cruelty. Now, my family have had sheep for generations, and we look at, we grow and develop
Oh.
lambs, sell them, the male lambs, and people say, oh, but that's cruel. But what would be cruel would be to allow them to reach sexual maturity, and they would literally have sex with their own mothers.
Oh my God.
When they come into season. And it's that kind of thing of, there wouldn't be enough grass, so you'd eventually lose half your stock because you wouldn't have food for them if we didn't go and buy you extra stock and all that, extra food and that. And it's that kind of thing of, it's unnatural to control certain animals or control deer herds and stuff like that, but then that brings in predators, and then there's too many, and then there's not enough prey, they die out, and it's such a well-established ecosystem that we don't have control on, and we've messed up the world, unfortunately. It's just quite horrific when we look at our own balls up. Some of us are living the high life in billion-dollar mansions, and some of us are sitting scraping food together, wondering who's going to eat.
It's that thing where it's like I feel like there has to be some balance in these conversations, because it's like I think people hear the way I talk about this and think that I'm 100% a modernist and think that anything the industry does is perfect. No, there are some things that need to be cleaned up that were done by industry at the beginning of everything that, still need to be cleaned up and need to be have amends made for, because I know that, farming does leave a mess on some level that that everything that pharmaceutical industries do are, never mind not perfect, can be damaging. Like, there's still a mess from the beginning of marketing of OxyContin in the U.S., and never mind the beginning of it, that's still ongoing, at least with the pharmaceutical lobby. So there are problems with these that need to be regulated and need to be fixed. And I'm not sure what the answers are, but whatever the answers are, it's not what's happening right now. So, I'm not claiming these industries are perfect, or that they're perfectly regulated at the moment, but they're better than goddamn prayer, that's for sure.
And so what role then do you think the government should adopt in this? How can they control, provide, assist with, how they show science to the population, how they produce food and stuff like that? Is the government fucking us up by the way our news and they portray these kind of findings?
I'm not sure. Let's see, in terms of food production, and this one seems to surprise people. And I mean, I get it that what happened. Like, I'm not sure what the laws and regulations are in the UK. Or if there's how dissimilar they are from the US. But I know in the US, there are a lot of misconceptions about how industry is involved with the government. I think people think that Monsanto and the food lobby are very, very intertwined with the government. Monsanto doesn't even crack the top 300 for lobbyists to the government during never mind during election season year round. So they're nowhere near as intertwined with the government as people think. There's less, there obviously is some lobbying, but there's far less than people think based on internet memes. So there's they don't own your Congress. That's not a thing. There is I don't like how to phrase this. I'm not a big fan of the food pyramid. I don't like that there's, government mandated telling people how they should eat. I think that I wish that people sat down with their doctors and a registered dietitian and talked out how much they should be eating, because I think that's much more personal than the government food pyramid makes it out to be. And I'm not sure if you have anything like My Plate or a food pyramid type thing over in the UK. Is that a thing that's over there?
I think we do use food pyramids and stuff, but it's very rare now. You kind of have to really go away and try to find it, and it's more companies that really have these kind of things.
Yeah. There was, for a while in the U.S., the food pyramid included a thing for dairy. And that is true, that came out of kind of lobbying from the dairy industry. And now you have a whole movement in the U.S. saying how, nobody needs dairy and it's how it's awful for you. And, I'm not, I don't think that dairy is like bad for you, but I also don't think it's something that anyone 100% needs in their diet. Like dairy, it's perfectly fine for you. Like if you don't have lactose intolerant, if you don't have an allergy, it's like any other food. It's, it has a certain number of calories. You shouldn't go overboard on it. But it's fine to include as part of your diet if it fits your dietary needs. But there was no reason for it for it to have its own thing in the food pyramid. And it's very strange that lobbying as it occurred allowed it to be a part of the food pyramid. Like, I don't think that's but here's the thing, that happened, like, I think almost 100 years ago, and that's not a thing that I think would have happened now. Like, it's very, I think that's kind of an antiquated part of the way that our food system sprung up, and it's not a thing that would have happened at this point in history. So it's interesting to see how all these things worked out.
Well, I've just realised, I know we've kind of bounced around and stuff, but it's coming up to an hour and a half. I still have page after page after page of questions, so I definitely want to have you on again. I've become a major fan of yours just from this alone.
I can listen to the Scottish accent all day, so that's...
we definitely want you to have on again, and this is what I wanted to show people, like, the real you, not this kind of, somebody I know disagreed, so she must be wrong, or it disagreed with my belief. To actually see how the world is, not what we believe it to be.
The world is a less scary place than some people make it out to be on the internet. That is my conclusion. I think so. We're not. How to phrase this? I'm not as scary as some people make me out to be. I'm sitting here on my bed in Oakland with a puppy dog curled up next to me sleeping. So I promise you I'm not all that scary.
So what do you want people listening to take from this interview about you, about the science, your SciBabe, your website, about science and how they view the world?
Let's see. If you have a question about something, if you're not sure if the information that's being presented to you is accurate, go out and ask, because the information is out there for you. But here's the rub on that. There's going to be a lot of information out there with a point of view, and I understand that I have a point of view on everything, and that's apparent. But I always try to hunt for something that's honest and that's truthful, and there's and I get it that so is everyone else, but it's hard to figure out what's real out there. Over time, it's exceedingly difficult to figure out who's presenting you with something that's real. I encourage, and I get it that this is hard to figure out. But at the end of the day, I'm going to encourage you to fact check me and to bring resources to me that question me, and especially from peer-reviewed sources. I don't know how many people that disagree with me are going to tell you to do that. So please, if you have a question about what I say, bring it to me. I might not have a chance to get back to you, but I'm certainly not going to ban you for questioning me, and I think that's a good place to start.
And that science, by its own nature, it's willing to say, oh, okay, we were wrong.
Yep.
Now we've used the evidence, this is what we now believe. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I cannot thank you enough for doing this. I really want to have you on again, because there's literally thousands of things I want to discuss, and I think you're a great laugh. You've really blown me away by this. For somebody who's become a fan of yours listening, how can they find out more about you? How can they keep in touch? Your social media, your websites?
Let's see. My home is over on SciBabe.com. Facebook.com/SciBabe is where you can find all the fun stuff. And a lot of my writing lately is over at theoutline.com, and I have a column over at self.com. Lots of .coms here. And of course, if you want to find my 140 character rantings, it's the same handle over at Instagram and Twitter. It's at the SciBabe.
And is there anything, the floor is open to you, is there anything that you would like to promote, any products, any, writing pieces that are about to come out, or is anything coming up, like, maybe a presentation you're doing?
Oh, it's right now. I just moved. My brain is way too fried. So that's about all I got at the moment. I'm going to be let's see. I'm going to be appearing at PastaCon in Philly in October, and at Free Flow in Orlando a few days later. So, and that's all coming up, like I said, in October. So that's all I got for the moment. But thank you so much for having me on. This was a pleasure. It was fun to talk about Britishisms. So
yeah.
So,
well, I'm definitely going to be including some of that because it was an absolute joy, and there will be some bits I might have to take out. But no, this has actually been one of my funnest interviews ever because we actually just broke from the usual. Here we go, discuss this. Then we'll talk about this. Then we'll discuss. And I try to make these interviews fun and exciting for people, and I want them to come away and go, I didn't know they were like that.
Oh, yeah. I think people walk into, because most of the interviews I do, they always end up involving swearing, that's for sure. But, I think everyone just wants to, a lot of times people want me to just debunk things right away. I'm like, I'm not a debunking machine. I have feelings, So this has been the first thing back to work after a weekend of moving things in 110-degree weather. So this has been an okay way to get back into the swing of things. So it's been it's been a strange weekend. I'll leave it at that.
Well, I definitely want to have you on again because it's been a pleasure to speak to yourself, to speak to Joyce. It's an absolute joy, and I will be having you on again because I think you're going to be a big hit with the listeners. So
definitely, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been fun.
That's it for another week. Thanks for listening. Absorb it, practice it, use it. Until next time, keep trying to hit that next level in your life.